Fan frustration was palpable after the disappointing loss against Brighton in match day 1. The illusion formed by a good pre-season had well and truly shattered, and fans were squinting to see if we did in fact have a new face on the touchline. Even the most optimistic of fans couldn't help but feel dejected after the defeat, dreading the long week ahead before United would have the opportunity to redeem themselves against Brentford. The only source of optimism really was that Frankie wasn't yet waking up in our rivals' clothes. With the window still open, fans turned to transfer news for solace. But instead, many were left feeling soulless. United was in the market for a 33-year-old striker, Marko Arnautovic, after just letting go of another striker who he signed at 33 years of age in Edinson Cavani. This absolutely reeked of desperation and signalled yet again United's total and utter incompetence in the transfer market. While our main rivals had strengthened with two of the top striking prospects in world football, we were scrounging for anyone who could kick a ball, a short-term fix with no plan for the future. On top of that, there were claims that Arnautovic had had some less than savoury things to say throughout his career. Amidst massive objection from the fanbase, United were forced to retract their interest. Arnautovic to Arnautovic within a span of a couple of days. Embarrassing. Next came news about 27-year-old France international Adrien Rabiot. Despite having a solid resume, having played for two of the biggest clubs in world football in Juventus and PSG, and being part of the France national team setup, jury was still out on where Rabiot's best position was. There were reports that the player preferred playing in advanced midfield and even as a wide midfielder, but his goal and assist tallies were far too low. Fans speculated whether the club had finally given up on De Jong and Rabiot was his replacement target as a deep-lying midfielder. But even still, many were speculative about Rabiot's ability to progress the ball from deep. I mean, bottom 12%. Really? While the player fit the profile of targets we should be looking for, both in terms of age and being in the final year of his contract, the player's abilities were unconvincing at best, and the agent of the player would be negotiating with would be his own mother, who herself had a fiery reputation. Make of that what you will. Next was news about an attacking option. PSV's 23-year-old left winger, Cody Gakpo. The captain of his team already at only 23, there was a lot to like about Gakpo. He was named Dutch Footballer of the Year after scoring 21 goals and handing out 15 assists in all competitions last season. It was a type of production United fans were clamouring for after Rashford and Sancho's disappointing seasons in 2021-22, although the numbers were almost certainly inflated due to playing in the Eredivisie. Nevertheless, talent was talent. There was just one glaring issue. Gakpo played almost exclusively as a left winger, the same position Rashford occupies and one Sancho can also thrive in. Right wing was a position more in need of addressing at United, as shown by United's pursuit of Ajax's Antony before being priced out of a move. Standing at 6'2" inches tall, it was possible Gakpo could deputise at striker in matches Ronaldo and/or Martial were not available. While exciting, he was yet another target fans were left speculating about how Ten Hag would fit him into the team. Whatever the case, United fans would have to wait for any sort of resolution until PSV concluded the Champions League qualifiers against Rangers on August 25th. And there was more drama to follow. Out of the blue, reports surfaced that PSG were targeting Rashford, with the player only having 1 year left on his contract with an option to extend for a further year. Fans would, again, be split on this issue, with many claiming Rashford had peaked and should be sold, while others had faith that Rashford could recapture his form from a few years ago. He was, after all, still only 24 years old. With Ten Hag in his pre-match conference in full support of Rashford and Man United's insistence that he was not for sale, it would be reasonable to assume that Rashford wouldn't be departing this season. Nothing's ever dull with this club, and we haven't even gotten to the match yet. The biggest storylines leading up to the game were this. Would Ronaldo be fit enough to start? If so, who would take his place on the bench? And how would our midfield function given how poor it was last game, especially in the first half? Come match day, these were the starting 11s for both teams. Similarly to last game against Brighton, United's 11 was superior on paper. Brentford had overachieved last season, finishing 13th this season after being promoted from the Championship. But their squad wasn't exactly filled with household names. The most notable change for United was Ronaldo coming into the starting lineup, and Eriksen dropping into the deep-lying midfielder position where he played so well in the second half of last game. This, on paper, was a perfect opportunity for United to bounce back from the disappointing 2-1 defeat against Brighton. But as we know, football ain't played on paper. Brentford's intentions were clear from minute 1, to go long and bypass United's press as Brighton had done last game. Tony tries a flick on, but Martinez is there to sweep up. He then plays a nice chipped ball towards Rashford. Rashford cleverly flicks the ball over the closing defender to completely take him out of the game. He takes a couple of strides forward before locating Ronaldo, who had made the run between two Brentford defenders. Henry manages to get back and put in a challenge, and no foul is called as Ronaldo is left rolling around on the floor. A bright start by United, but as the game progressed, warning signs started to emerge. From a goal kick, United try to play out from the back. De Gea plays it short to Eriksen out of frame. He plays a one-touch around the corner pass to Maguire, who is in a lot of space. But Maguire takes too long on the ball and allows himself to be closed down, before gesturing to his teammates to give him more options. Literally from the ensuing throw, United would be hit with a hammer blow. Ronaldo leaps to compete for the ball, and manages to bring it down successfully. But he's tackled, legally in the referee's eyes, and Brentford are suddenly on the front foot. A square pass is played to De Silva, who takes a rather speculative shot from the edge of the box. A routine save for De Gea. Wait. Huh? De Gea does his best Houdini impression as the ball is there 1 second, but gone in the next. It's there, then it's not. It's there, then it's not. David. From the kickoff, United get themselves forward very quickly. Ronaldo receives the ball from Shaw and lays it off around the corner back to him. Shaw continues his strong run to the edge of the box before finding Sancho on the wing. He waits patiently and plays in Bruno, who does his best Houdini impression and makes the ball disappear into the stands. Where have your shooting boots gone, Bruno? 5 minutes later, United were in trouble yet again. Maguire opts to go short to Eriksen, who has been closed down aggressively. He tries the around the corner pass to Dalot, but the Brentford player is all over it and cuts it out. The ball gets played into space, and it's a race between Maguire and Tony. We know who's losing that race. Maguire gets all of the man and none of the ball, and earns himself a yellow. Let's wake up, fellas, yeah? Nothing would come from the free kick, but tragedy would strike from the ensuing goal kick. United attempt to play out from the back, despite Brentford's strong pressing all game. De Gea inexplicably tries to play it short to Eriksen, who has a Brentford player fully breathing down his neck. Eriksen tries it around the corner pass again, which it just had cut out not 2 minutes ago, and Jensen is just all over it. He not only manages to block the pass, but keeps it under control, before doing David De Gea with the eyes and easily slotting it into the net. From the goalkeeper's angle, it's even more flabbergasting that De Gea chose to play this pass instead of going long. A player like De Jong perhaps could have escaped to the side not occupied by the defender, but that's just not in Eriksen's game. A disastrous mistake yet again, and Ten Hag was left speechless. The game would drift on until a drinks break at the 25th minute, a chance for Ten Hag to regalvanise his troops. When the game resumed, De Gea finally chose to boot the ball long. Too little too late if you ask me. Another theme throughout the first half was how United were conceding way too many free kicks on the edge of their own box. While nothing would come from them directly, United would suffer yet another setback from the corner kick that followed. Mbeumo delivers an in-swinger towards the back post. Tony rises high off the ground and sends a looping header back across goal. De Gea is caught in no man's land as Ben Mee easily outmuscles Martinez to get his head on the ball and into the back of the net. It hadn't even been 5 minutes since the break. United fans' biggest reservation about Martinez playing at centre back was fully realised, as his 5'9" stature did little to affect Mee's advances. 3-0 down and only half an hour in. Where to from here? United would have the ball a lot in these sorts of areas throughout the match, but it seemed like a Brentford player was there every time to get a block in. They showed so much heart on defence in fact, that the football gods would reward them with yet another goal. Sancho has the ball in the right half space. He sneaks his way into the box before playing the ball through to Fred. Fred is forced away from goal and has to play the ball back to Dalot on the wing. He attempts a clever pass to Sancho, but the Brentford defenders are all over it yet again and win the ball back. As the ball is cleared, Tony and Mbeumo are situated wide and high. Luke Shaw, who had moments before been goal side of Mbeumo, inexplicably falls behind and begins jogging, not sprinting, jogging back. The first thing on United's scouting report of Mbeumo would have been his pace and work ethic. While Shaw himself is no slouch, the fact that he reacted so slowly and allowed Mbeumo to get goal side is inexcusable. By the time Tony receives the ball and plays it in behind, Shaw is practically out of the game while De Gea is still glued to his line. Mbeumo shields the ball brilliantly, then slots it in past De Gea, who can only watch. A calamity of errors, and the United player's heads had well and truly dropped. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. 4-0 down. What a joke. Shortly after the goal, a sequence emerged that so clearly demonstrated the contrast in goalkeeping styles between De Gea and so many modern goalkeepers. Fred wins the ball back on the edge of United's box, then plays a nice ball to Ronaldo. He lays it off to Bruno, who sees Rashford making the run in behind and plays a nice lofted through ball. In this shot, it looks like Rashford had the defender beat, and could be through one-on-one with the keeper like Mbeumo had been for the goal moments before. But as he attempts to bring the ball down, we see that Raya had in fact begun charging out of his box to sweep up. As the ball bounces up in front of Rashford, Raya is able to shoulder it away cleanly, then regains possession to boot. De Gea is timid by trait, which does not inspire confidence in his teammates. Raya here was a stark contrast. In fact, it needn't be so dramatic to see the deficiencies in De Gea's game. Even from a simple free kick, we see Raya demonstrate total command of his box as he leaps triumphantly to claim the ball. When's the last time we saw De Gea come out this far, I wonder? Half-time stats would read like this. Almost a carbon copy of the game against Brighton. United dominated possession metrics yet again, but mostly it was on the edge of Brentford's box against a set defence. Total shots were fairly even, but United had not posed a tangible threat while Brentford had slotted 4 past De Gea. Ten Hag made 3 substitutions at half-time to freshen things up, but the game, everyone knew, was as good as over. Still, United did have some positive moments in the second half, which I've included just to escape the spiral of depression I'm going through as I'm making this video. From a throw-in, McTominay plays the ball back to Malacia, who passes along the touchline to Rashford. He lays it off to Eriksen, who plays a 1-2 with Bruno before playing in Dalot running in from the right back position. He gets his head up and plays a cross in early for Ronaldo in the centre of the box, but unfortunately his header goes wide. A nice bit of one-touch passing play. Shortly afterward, McTominay has a ball near the centre of the pitch. He flicks it towards Dalot on the right wing, who swings in a left-footed cross. Ronaldo meets it with his head, but the ball goes sailing over the bar. A very similar move to Martial's pre-season goal from Dalot's cross against Crystal Palace. Ronaldo on this occasion though was left frustrated. A different kind of positive moment came when United was on defence. Tony receives the ball on the edge of the box and plays a clever flick over the top for Mbeumo. Malacia is alert and boots the ball clear, and refreshingly shows some passion, which United had been lacking all afternoon. But, despite glimpses of positive play, the outcome would be unchanged the full time. Full-time stats would read like this. United finished with 67% possession, exactly the same as they had in the first half. They managed to create 6 more chances compared to Brentford's 2, but only managed 2 more shots on target and still failed to register a goal. An absolute disaster of a result to land a smack bang on the bottom of the Premier League table, and it was nothing less than United deserved. De Gea set the tone for the afternoon in all the wrong ways by completely demoralising the team with his unforgivable mistake, only to compound the issue by putting Eriksen in a lose-lose situation for the second goal. To his credit, he'd take full responsibility for costing the team 3 points in an interview after the match. But talk was cheap. United's midfield issues had once again been highlighted. Playing Eriksen as a number 6 clearly hadn't worked against his former club, but it's not like United were drowning in options. Fred was a complete non-factor once again, and beckoned horrifying questions like, was United right to pick McTominay in all these games purely for his physicality? Maguirs' leadership, let alone his lackluster performances, was called into question yet again, as fans pondered if he truly garnered the respect of his peers. He'd captained the team to numerous humiliating defeats now, and had been part of a defence that has conceded 4 goals or more in far too many matches over the last few years. How long could this be allowed to go on? Martinez had looked shaky on defence against Brighton, and did very little to ease the nerves of United fans in this match. No matter how comfortable he is on the ball, his lack of height will continue to be an issue in the Premier League until he can prove to fans that it isn't. United's attack lacked flair again, with Sancho putting in yet another invisible performance on the right wing. Bruno continues to be a far cry from the player we saw when he first joined the club. Ronaldo tried his best to get himself involved, and Rashford showed a few decent moments, but for all the possession retained around the box, United never truly looked like scoring. Ten Hag wasn't absolved of blame either. Perhaps playing Eriksen in the most important part of midfield against a team that he'd played for not 3 months ago, against a manager and players who knew him better than his current United teammates, was a naive decision. And his continued use of players such as Fred and Maguire, while players like Van der Beek and Varane sat on the bench, was also extremely frustrating for fans. This was truly rock bottom for once the biggest and most successful club in England. We just witnessed the worst performance by a Manchester United team in a very, very long time, perhaps even the worst in the club's history. The players were completely devoid of confidence, belief, and the desire to fight for the badge. The club's recruitment plan was akin to a shopping list made by a toddler, reeking of desperation and panic with no long-term vision. The tension between fans and their Glazer ownership was at an all-time high, and pressure was mounting for them to finally sell after plaguing the club for well over a decade. Yet, as hard as it is to fathom, it could get even worse for United fans, as in the next match, United would host Liverpool at Old Trafford. Would United avoid defeat? Would Ten Hag finally be the man to make the tough decisions and drop these underperforming players? Would the club finally bring in more reinforcements in the market? Frankie, please. Join me next week for Chapter 3 of Manchester United's season. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your comments on the Brentford game down below.